and a very good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching Smart 24 TV. My name is Anthony, and of course this is Financial Markets. It's a Monday morning and I hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day so far. Welcome back from Smart Means Business. This is another edition of Financial Markets. In Financial Markets, of course, we get to analyze stock performances for different stock exchanges in Africa and across the world. And of course, we get to look into what is trending, in which companies are losing, which companies are gaining, what are the opportunities there for you to invest in the capital markets of East Africa, and of course, the global financial markets. Now, to follow us, you can be able to do that using our Twitter, and you can follow us at Smart24 TV now for all your latest content on business. And of course, you can follow me personally at Anthony Sebale on Twitter as well for more information regarding the show and what's happening in the financial markets. Now, of course, let's get to delve into the business. But before we do that, I just want to do a humble reminder that Altex East Africa is your number one trading platform when it comes to treasury bonds in East Africa. Altex says that under Zabu initiative, My Money, My Future, you can do something new. Simply grab your phone and dial *92# and experience Altex at a whole new level. With Altex East Africa, we're saying your money is safe and secure because we are licensed by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda. Now, besides, of course, the license, we do have, of course, the guarantee of a return on your investment. After 6 months, you have your money coming back to you. You have that daily income coming in, and of course, that passive income coming in from your savings. Altex opens their gates at 8:15 a.m. and closes at 3 p.m. East African Standard Time. Altex East Africa, you can do something new. Now let's get to dive into the business of the exchange here on Friday. Of course, today is the first weekday of trade, and we are opening, of course, for a whole new level of trading in the next few days. Now, starting off with the Uganda Securities Exchange on Friday, there were a total of at least 560,000 shares that were recorded at 91.8 million Ugandan shillings on Friday. By the close of the day ended with 3 participants mainly in the trade, including MTN Uganda, Umeme, as well as Bank of Baroda Uganda. In as far as the gainers and losers are concerned on the market, the day ended with just one single gainer, and that was none other than MTN Uganda. Now, MTN recorded a gain of at least 4.80 Ugandan shillings, appreciating to at least 169.80 Ugandan shillings per share yesterday, adding a total value of at least 2.91% on their share price. Well, MTN was also a participant in the trade, and at least a recorded volume of 533,000 shares was actually recorded on Friday. Regardless, of course, we had very little participation in trade of course, concerning the other stocks that we're relatively always expecting some participation from. For example, Stanbic Bank Uganda, which didn't put up any participation on Friday. On the losing side, mainly the cross listings came in there, with Jubilee Holdings Limited dropping off 8.16%, whereas the Equity Bank Limited stock dropped off a price percentage of about 1.08%, down to 989.78 Ugandan shillings. The Centum Investment stock at least also lost 0.73%, whereas Kenya Airways lost 0.95%, and KCB, or Kenya Commercial Bank, lost 0.61%, and East African Breweries Limited dropped off at least 0.46%. None of the cross listings participated in trade on Friday. As we all know, the cross listings usually have movements due to primarily their performance on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, which is their primary stock exchange. And for that matter, we don't really consider much their movements in our indices or in our average performance monitoring platforms. When you look at, for example, the All-Share Index, it was highly affected, slightly affected, but not so much, with a 0.41 points increase actually after closing at 1,007 5.08 points. The USE Local Company Index giving us a deeper picture into especially participating equities, that is the domestic listings, at least went up due to, of course, the good performance of MTN at a 1.49% appreciation in points, up to at least 270.95 points. That's, of course, a general performance from the Uganda Securities Exchange. Let's get to look at, have a deeper look at MTN Uganda's performance last Friday and see how much it impacted, of course, the performance of the stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, MTN Uganda still has at least 3.8 trillion, matter of fact, Ugandan shillings as market capitalization on the exchange, meaning it is now the #1 most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Of course, kicking off Equity Bank Limited, which was coming in that position just a while ago. Now, MTN Uganda's stock has at least 22% of the entire equity market on the Uganda Securities Exchange, represented by MTN Uganda. MTN, yes, on Friday had at least 4.80 Ugandan shillings added to their price, rising to 169.80 Ugandan shillings per share, which was a 2.91% appreciation in price. When you look at the volumes, they had at least 533,600 shares valued at 90.6 million Ugandan shillings on Friday that was traded. Current performance on the exchange shows that MTN Uganda closed its last trading day with 169.80 after now a 1 week loss of at least 0.14%, unfortunately, and a 4 weeks gain of 2.91%. Yesterday, but one that was on Friday, there was a gain of 2.9%. That was in the daily trade on Friday. However, in the longer run, MTN still has a lot more work to do. For example, year-to-date performance is at a 10.65% depreciation. A lot more work to do there, of course, as the stock began the year with a price of 180 Ugandan shillings. So it is still behind that price. And then when you look at the trading participation, they are doing pretty well, coming in the 3rd position amongst the top most traded on stocks on the Uganda Securities Exchange here in Uganda. On average, in the last quarter, they have recorded 31.7 million shares so far, and which is quite a good representation of the market here in the Uganda Securities Exchange trade. Their turnover is up to an amount of about 5.37 billion, which is in the 2nd place, just after Umeme in the last 1 quarter as well. That's MTN Uganda. For you, Bank of Baroda Uganda also came in as a participant in trade. Of course, we are still looking at the bonus shares that were given out by Bank of Baroda Uganda. These are still trading on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, the current pricing of the Bank of Baroda Uganda stock is at 15.0 Ugandan shillings. Bank of Baroda Uganda now currently has a 37.5 billion market capitalization, making it the 14th most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Earlier on this month, on the 7th of June, Bank of Baroda listed extra shares or bonus shares for their shareholders on the market. Now, this was as a result, of course, of preparation for what is going to be coming ahead, of course, in 2024, after the Honorable Minister of Finance, Honorable Matia Kasaija, announced that the new market minimum capital requirements for any commercial bank in Uganda was raised from 25 billion to 150 billion. This was as a result, of course, of shocks that the banks have been currently facing, including COVID-19 pandemic, including a couple of other financial constraints that the banks have been facing in the last few years, which have forced the Bank of Uganda to push the minimum capital requirements now to the current 150 billion Ugandan shillings. Of course, that notwithstanding, the Bank of Baroda Uganda stock was at around 50 billion. And when you look at the minimum capital requirements at 25 billion, they would qualify. But because of this new minimum capital requirement, they had to raise more capital. And what better way to do it than the exchange? So they issued bonus shares, and this was about 12.5 billion shares each at exactly 10 Ugandan shillings per share. And that's why their stock price fell immediately to 10 shillings and has been rising now, consequent of the last week's performance of the stock through, of course, the teens, at least now at 15 Ugandan shillings and still going upwards. So that's Bank of Baroda Uganda stock for you. I hope you get a clear picture of why the company has lost so much value in the last few months. When you look at 1 month ago, they have lost 80%, and in the last 6 months, 82.4% has been wiped off their value. This is due to the bonus share that had to be pushed down to 10 shillings per share, and of course that affected the current price of the company. Bank of Baroda, however, Uganda is still the 4th most traded on stock in the last 1 quarter on the exchange in market performance analysis, at least from 21st of March to the 23rd of June. At least a couple of 10.3 million shares have been recorded within this period at 802 million Ugandan shillings. On average, they trade about 162,000 shares on every trading session. That is Bank of Baroda Uganda for you there. Umeme was the other participant in trading at least 2,021 shares. When you look at the current performance of Umeme, yesterday but two actually on Friday, at least over 889,000 Ugandan shillings was transacted on the company after 2,021 shares were traded. Now, Umeme's current market capitalization is 715 billion. And their current market price 440 Ugandan shillings. In the last quarter, yes, they have maintained their second position as the most traded on stock, second most traded on stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange. That is in the past 3 months. And this is, of course, has been due to a number of issues that have, of course, been happening at Umeme. Number one is, of course, their very attractive dividend that was declared this year. This year, Umeme will be issuing at least 63.9 Ugandan shillings worth of dividends for every share that every shareholder is holding at the moment. When you look at the current price performances, we have at least 3 months gain of 46.7%. Yes, the gains have leveled off, and in the past 4 weeks, the price has been quite stable at 440 Ugandan shillings. It seems like we can't go any higher at Umeme, but you never know. We still have quite a number of days before the book closure date, and so many shareholders could still be interested in buying themselves some stock. Now, Umeme also, in the last 6 months, has 110% appreciation on their price. Quite a very, very interesting performance that has been put up by Umeme there. Now, let's get to look at, of course, the summary here. We had the 38% improvement in the volume and the 364% improvement in the turnover last Friday. Market capitalization currently at the Uganda Securities Exchange is 17.3 trillion Ugandan shillings there. That's it from Uganda. Let's get to cross over to our neighbors in Nairobi and have a look at the busiest and oldest stock exchange in the region. What is currently happening to the 66 listings on Nairobi Securities Exchange? Now, as per trade data on Friday, at least over close to 48 participants were witnessed on Nairobi Securities Exchange, ending the day with 21 gainers and at least 15 losers on the market. Express Kenya led the gainers with a gain of at least about 8.4% up to a 4 Kenyan shillings price. And when you look at the following performers, we had Jubilee Holdings Limited at 5.8% appreciation. We also had Nairobi Securities Exchange itself appreciate by 5.7%, and the CIC Insurance Group coming at 4.97% appreciation in price. When you look at the losing side, Unga Group came in at the bottom with a total depreciation of 8.11%. after depreciating to a price of 17.0 Kenyan shillings per share. And this was followed closely by East African Cables at least 7.95% depreciation in price as well, and Uchumi Supermarket coming in with a loss of at least 4.17%. Kenya Power and Lighting Company lost at least 3.09% on Friday. Now, Safaricom returned with a huge volume of 9.4 1.48 million shares after Friday trading, so the stock price actually continued to further appreciate by 0.05 Kenyan shillings. Yes, and now currently the stock is valued at 17.05 Kenyan shillings per share. Safaricom has been through a storm in this first quarter of 2023 and through the second quarter of 2023 as well. However, things seem to be getting a little bit better as we, of course, see some light at the end of the tunnel now. When you look at Friday trading, over 9 million shares traded, 9.5, absolutely, very wonderful trade there, and 291 deals. This means even the number of deals has gone up, according to the statistics that we've been, of course, comparing to. That is in the first quarter and the second quarter of 2023. Shares outstanding are at 40.1 billion shares, which is, of course, a very fixed figure. But the market capitalization has also slightly appreciated, with appreciation in price to 701 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, the current market performance is at 1 week gains of 17.5% and 4 week gains of 16.3% at Safaricom. Safaricom is still number one most traded on stock on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with the past 3 months witnessing at least 491 million shares. Let's talk about Safaricom slightly. The thing has been about investors, and you know, I've always urged us to take hold of our own identity, to take hold of our own markets in Africa. And so, because Safaricom had so many foreign investors, when it came to, of course, a few problems there with Kenyan shilling depreciating, these investors always have options outside Kenya. So they always find themselves selling prematurely, probably before the time they would sell, and sometimes even panic selling. And so the prices drops from the sky without any control. But then when local investors are investing, they don't invest just against the US dollar or the Kenyan shilling. They invest because they have a vision. They want to see this company grow. They want to see how much dividend is it going to give, and so on and so forth. Of course, every investor would want to look at that. But then the local investors do a very great role in the health of an exchange. So what we've been seeing at Safaricom has been what we call the suffering from at the hands of course, foreign investors, where you have so many foreign investors in the market, and because they do, of course, do flight capital. They take away the capital and they, of course, get to invest in better markets elsewhere, and that affects our performance. So kudos to the Kenyans there, and of course Ugandans or East Africans who are investing in companies like Safaricom and a couple of other stocks within our exchanges here, because you're doing a great role to see our companies, to see that our exchange remains very strong. And that's what we've been seeing in Kenya recently. Very many foreign investors flocking out and leaving the markets very devastated. We don't want to see that. So make a decision today to be part of investors within East Africa. Simply get to learn more about how you can invest through stockbrokers and how you can be able to track the performance of your stocks. Watching this show, I'll be giving you daily updates, but also you can do your own personal analysis every single day as you post the day and look at the different exchanges, look at the different companies, look at how your portfolio has fared. Of course, not frantically to be very anxious and try to, of course, see whether you're going to make money or not, but of course in a way of getting to understand your portfolio more, getting to understand the markets more, and how you can push forward. Let's get to look at elsewhere in Africa as we wind down. Zimbabwe Stock Exchange appreciated by 52 points on their benchmark index on Friday, whereas the Nigeria Stock Exchange lost 4.6 on their all share index on Friday. And then when you look at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, at least 702 points dropped off from the J203, the benchmark index there in South Africa. Then we have the Ghana Stock Exchange appreciate by 23.3 9. That's it, my friend. That's it from the African continent. Now, elsewhere in the United States, the S&P 500, that is a benchmark performer there from the New York Stock Exchange, at least 3 points up by the close of yesterday, closing at 4,348 points. The Dow Jones or the Dow had at least 33,727 US dollars close of Friday, and the Nasdaq at least 13,492 points were realized on this particular one on Friday. We're going to look ahead this week upon the Federal Reserve decision. There will be monetary meeting, and of course more data that will be coming in the United States, as we shall of course unveil later on this week. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching Smart 24 TV. Remember, the show is proudly sponsored by Altex East Africa. Altex is a number one trading platform, especially those of you who are interested in fixed incomes, exchange traded fund on fixed incomes across East Africa, in Kenya, in Uganda, and in Tanzania. Simply grab your phone to be part of Altex now by simply dialing *292#, and then you can follow up your investments using your mobile money wallet, transferring cash off your mobile money onto the Altex trading platform. You can also get to buy if you want to buy, or you can sell if you want to sell. Altex East Africa is regulated by the Capital Market Authority, and with Altex East Africa, we are saying you can do something new. There you have it, my friend. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course a lot more business is coming up your way, and so you just have to stay tuned at Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. My name is Anthony Sabal. Once again, have a lovely day. See you tomorrow.